It's the end of October, but unfortunately, a lot of the horror going on right now is not fiction. We got 42 million Americans, or at least 42 million people, let's say, are going to lose their SNAP benefits. Now, we've had a lot of discussions about illegal aliens and what's happening with that, but these are still humans. These are still people. I still have a heart, but I got to look at both sides and look for the truth between lines. So what I'm looking at, though, I think the overall problem that we're kind of missing is not the government shutdown. It's not all the problems, the Democrats holding off and the continued resolution and all those things to fund the government. I think it's the fact that we have 42 million people that require government assistance to feed themselves or their kids. And I think that maybe that's the overall problem that we need to investigate. Like, why are we having this such a big deal? Now, I get it if you're handicapped mentally or physically, but at the same time, like, that can't be 100% of the people out there that are getting benefits. And of course, you get SNAP, you get WIC. There's a bunch of other free food for kids at school. There's a lot of other ways to feed your family. And I'm just like wondering, like, wow, how many people could legitimately work and be off benefits but choose not to? And I think the big problem we're seeing now being that the fact that November 1st is looming, it's people are coming out on their social media channels saying that they're going to rob and loot places, grocery stores, or whatever they're planning on doing because they don't get the benefits that they are given for free. So I think that's a horrible situation as well, because number one, if you can loot or rob something, you probably have time to go find a job and go to work. But I digress, and I don't want too far in that tangent, but also too, if someone's going to threaten me with robbing or looting because they don't get free stuff, I just have a problem with that. I do. But this program, formerly known as food stamps, I mean, it's a supplemental nutrition assistance program. It's about $187 per person each month to buy groceries. Okay. Now, we also seen signs where they literally sell their money for groceries for cash so they can buy other things they want to. We won't get into that, but a lot of seniors requiring this, a lot of families with children, and 1 in 8 people, I guess, are on some kind of benefit. And so it's a funding fiasco. With what's happening with the government overall, and it's going to be effective. So we're going to look at what some of the governors are doing, some of the states are doing, what the federal government's doing, the lawsuits that are flying around, and wonder if we can put this on hold, if we can just fund the government. But remember, October 1st, government shutdown, that's when it begins. October 10th, the USDA warned that, hey, November benefits might not be going out, so prepare. October 24th, the USDA, they put a memo out saying there's no emergency funds. There wasn't. And of course, by October 28th, Democrats, the states, they started to sue the federal government. And then October 31st, the judges ordered the funds be released. But the appeals are still going on, of course, and it's just going to take time before the government can even get back into the swing of things next week. So let's start with the basics. So SNAP isn't just a handout, though. It's kind of an investment, is what people like to say. In the fiscal year 2025, it costs the federal government $99.8 billion a year to fund SNAP. It's about $8.3 billion a month, keeps food on the table. Children make up about 39% of the recipients. So 39%, do the math on that one. But the program pumps billions of dollars into local communities and economies through the grocery stores and the convenience stores and where they're spending all this money. But here's the crisis, though. The federal government shut down, and we're just not sure where the money is going to come from. Now, the good thing as far as what I'm seeing is how the community is responding. You got churches, you got food banks that already exist. They're able to pitch in. I know a lot of clubs, community organizations are also collecting food, handing it out, giving it out. So it's kind of nice to see that you're allowed to do this on your own if you feel like donating and not just being taken from your taxes. So think about that one on the whole grand scheme of thing. If this does prove, if the shutdown does go on, the SNAP benefits don't get paid, think about the ramifications of saying, hey, maybe we don't actually need this program. We can fund it on a local level, either local being your town, community, city, county, just in general, maybe even just the state. You look at that dynamic of it, And of course, people are going to say, well, that could never happen. Well, you know what? Let's roll the dice. I mean, a lot of things can't ever happen, and then all of a sudden, magically, they do. But anyway, looking at some of the headlines going on, though, NBCnews.com, they put a banner out that said just the well has run dry. And they also blaming the Senate Democrats for voting this down over 12 times. And they keep calling it a radical left thing that they're doing. They need to fund the government. But on the same NBCnews.com, they fired back saying Democrats are accusing the administration of politicizing hunger and violating the Hatch Act by using official channels to bash opponents. Okay, well, we can look at the Hatch Act and all that, but let's just see what's going on and realize, does it really benefit Americans, or at least people living here? But at the heart of this mess, the USDA's refusal to tap the emergency funds, okay? Now, SNAP has a contingency reserve set up. It's about $5 to $6 billion already. Started in the fiscal year, set aside by Congress for these exact moments. But Politico.com, they argue this is reserved for true disasters. Hurricanes, floods, fires, things that we don't know is happening. And the argument can be made that literally SNAP can be funded if the government were simply just to be passed. So it's one of those things where this maybe not being an emergency doesn't trigger those funds. Play it as you will, but that's kind of how they're looking at it too. So Axios.com, the critics, they're including the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, call this a dodge, though. Past USDA guidance, even under President Trump, allowed these reserves for the benefits. But CBPP.org, they also say the administration already shifted $300 million in tariff revenue to fund WIC. And that's the program for low-income moms and kids. And Forbes is wondering, Forbes.com, they come out and say, why not SNAP? Our Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins says more WIC transfers are needed, but advocates say that's no excuse. So going back to Axios.com, the even partial funding from the reserve could cover 2/3 of November's $8 to $9 billion tab. And without it, though, recipients, they're either going to keep their October leftovers, which isn't a whole lot, and also there's no retroactive pay guaranteed if the government does come back on this thing too. So abcnews.go.com states the states are scrambling, though. Over 24 Democratic governors and attorneys general from places like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Kansas, they're suing the USDA. They're arguing the cutoff is unlawful, but it's going through the court system, so we know how fast that can be. However, in Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin right now, who possibly can be considered for a presidential candidate, his term's going to be up. He's term limited. But he declared this Democrat shutdown being the lapse that it is. He launched the Virginia Emergency Nutrition Assistance Program. It's $37.5 million. They're going to go out weekly from the Virginia Treasury. This is the state surplus and will cover SNAP for about 850,000 people in the state of Virginia. So USAtoday.com, though, brings up New York Kathy Hochul. She's the governor of New York State. She is a Democrat. She declared a state of emergency October 30th. So she's unlocking $65 million for food aid, plus $11 million that she earlier released for relief programs, and she's feeding about 16 million meals to 2.8 million SNAP users. Now, I looked at, the first thing I thought was, well, okay, how many illegal aliens are in the state of New York? Turns out there's about 676,000 illegal aliens that we know about. 676,000 people. Now, obviously, not all of them are on SNAP, but just imagine a half of them are at $190. Multiply that out. So overall, full participation, $128 million. Figure out the percentage out of that, how many of those illegal aliens are on SNAP. We know they are. Okay. USAtoday.com talks about Illinois, though. They're tapping $10 million in emergency reserve, matched by another $10 million for 7 food banks. Now, is that going to be enough? Probably not. But NewYorkTimes.com says Vermont's Republican Governor Phil Scott and the Democratic legislator committed $6.3 million for 2 full weeks of benefits. So congratulations to Vermont. I don't know how many SNAP people are on that one. But Connecticut, this is coming from NewYorkTimes.com. Ned Lamont allocated $3 million to Connecticut Food Share for pantries and mobile units, aiding about 360,000 residents. Okay. NBC News talks about North Carolina. Josh Stein, $10 million in state grants to food banks, matched by $5 million for AmeriHealth, and then also $2.5 million from the Temper Foundation. And North Carolina has about 1.4 million SNAP users. All right. So here's the thing. Were they not coming? And according to NPR.org, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he's already tapped emergencies for COVID, and he's done obviously for the hurricanes that he's had in his state of Texas. He's staying silent. There's about 3.5 million Texans right now in limbo when it comes to SNAP. I know that state of Tennessee, the governor put out basically just saying, here's a website, go to this, find the food. So, up in the air. Where do you feel about this? Let me know what you think. I mean, is it right just to hand money out? Donald Trump floated out the idea that anybody that's getting government assistance should be on a drug program. As far as being tested for drugs, they should also be on some kind of work program, depending on what their skills are or what they are able to physically and mentally do. Where do you feel about this? This is a real situation. There's going to be a lot of people. I mean, it's hard because you got the one hand, you got the people that are, these are families, these are people, these are humans that are going to go hungry. On the other hand, it's where is the money coming from? And it comes from taxpayers. That taxation is theft. So where are we at with that one? And I think my personal thing about this is I like the fact that I can donate money, food at my leisure when I want to. Okay. And I do want to, don't get me wrong, but I have the option to do that. And I think that that's the important thing too, is just giving people options in order to help out their community. If that's what they choose to do, great. But the force is on them. And then I look at the mismanagement too of it, where you got obviously all the money comes from taxes, goes to the national and the kind of federal feds, and it kind of comes trickles down, and where does it go? And it trickles all around. You get the states, then it goes to the counties and the towns and the cities. And it's just like, all right, let's eliminate some of those tiers. Can we get rid of the feds? Can we just wipe them out? How many millions and maybe billions of dollars can we save by eliminating some of the offices that we just don't need because we can get the money directly to the communities that need it most? Think about that. I don't know. It's something to think about. It's a hard situation, and it's getting late in our country right now where we need to fund the government so people can eat. And that's where we're at. These are political pawns. It has come out. The Democrats have said that. Literally, this is their leverage. So let's see where it goes. Anyway, that's in the heartfelt wrench of it. It could be a good thing because we need to figure out how we can help 42 million people, not to necessarily just give them money for government programs, but to get them off government assistance. And that's the truth between lines.
Between the lines. What they hide, what they write, who decides? We did